Hi, everybody. Welcome. Okay, this is my first YouTube Live that I've done. So it's going to be kind of experimental, but basically, I wanted to come on and talk about the big T square that we have between the Sun and Pluto and Mars. And these are such heavy hitters in our own psyche and our own sense of self. So we will just go ahead and get started. And why should you care about this? Like, how is this going to affect you in your life? And what does this even mean for you? So I always like to look at each of these archetypes like they are a part of our own personal kingdom. So you are the one that is in charge of your kingdom. And are you going to have a good kingdom or a sad kingdom? Is it going to run well? Is it going to be totally dysfunctional? And those are all questions that we have to answer. And we don't necessarily know right off the bat that we have all of this autonomy, that we have all of this ability to create what we want. And we talk a lot about not having any control, right? And I think that that's a big Pluto theme. We do actually have a little bit more control over certain aspects than we think. And one of the things that we do have control over is how we run our kingdom. So if the Sun is our king, and that means the Sun is our ruler. The Sun is the one that is in charge of how we operate our day-to-day lives. Now, the Sun is also connected to the heart, and you want to have a heart-centered kingdom. You want to be a heart-centered leader, at least I think you do. We have a lot of leaders that are not heart-centered. Most leaders, in fact, have a hard time being heart-centered. And think about it. When you have to make tough decisions for everyone, it can be hard to be heart-centered because it can hurt to let people down. But when we're looking at the Sun, so right now the Sun is in Taurus, and Taurus is a really strong archetype. I'm doing a bunch of Taurus videos over Taurus season, so you can get to know this archetype. And we all have Taurus in our chart. You don't have to be a Taurus Sun or a Taurus rising to read into this. Like, you have Taurus in your chart, and Taurus is the part of you that is learning how to cultivate steadiness, learning how to grow and how to create abundance, really. And that doesn't always come easily, does it? In order to know what steady feels like, you might have to overcome some childhood stuff. You might have to really examine your relationship with abundance and with money, and underneath that with self-confidence. So these are really potent themes to be looking at, because we want to learn how to use Taurus. So in our kingdom, we want to have a garden that is abundant, right? We want to know how to really do it. And that takes a skill. You can't just go out and like drop seeds on the ground and turn it into a vegetable garden. It actually takes a lot of time and patience, and you have to learn. So that's what we're doing when the Sun is in Taurus. So our king is actually right now a Taurus king. And so in order to rule our kingdom benevolently, graciously, but with strength, right? We don't want to be pushovers. We don't want people to come and steal all of our vegetables out of our garden. We don't want to miscalculate and, not put sheets on our garden when the freeze is coming. I'm in Colorado. That's what we have to do this time of year. So we are learning as kings, as our own personal rulership, we're learning how to work with abundance and build it. And it's hard right now because we have so much Venus stuff happening. So we're all challenged, right? So think about in your own life how you have been challenged recently with questions around your money, questions around your own self-worth. Like, what is going on in your life that is challenging you? And I'll give you some examples from just people that I have worked with over the past few weeks. There are interesting friendship dynamics, a lot of friendship breakups, a lot of looking at the nature of a friendship and saying, God, do I want to stay in this? Or did I really do what that person is accusing me of? Or why am I giving so much to this person and getting not much in return? And those are some Venus things. I mean, those are also Aquarius things, and we're going to talk about Pluto and Aquarius because it's part of this T-square. So we're under this T-square right now with the Sun in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius, and Mars in Leo. So to go back to the analogy of the kingdom, your king is a Taurus king. You're learning how to build your garden and fortify your abundance. And you have to ask yourself some questions. And then we're looking at the shadow side, right? The Lord of the underworld, the sort of dark advisor of Pluto. And I say that because Pluto is not the advisor like Saturn might be, right? Saturn comes in very no nonsense and says, you should do this. This is what we've seen before. This is what the numbers say. You know, Saturn can be very cut and dried. Pluto is much more about helping you to see your dark side, helping you to see some of the difficulties, the secret things, the unexpected enemies, or the way that your trauma is still impacting you. So here's Pluto. Pluto might be also akin to like the sorcerer, right? Like if you really want to create power, you might go to Pluto and say, how can I create power? And Pluto says, well, here's how you are disempowered. First of all, here are the things that keep you from being powerful. So work on those and come back. Then I'll teach you more about your actual power. And then we have Mars, and Mars is the warrior. So the king, the sorcerer, and the warrior are all at odds right now. And this is internally. So you might be noticing this coming up in all of these ways, right? Because the world, your life is a mirror. Friendships, romantic partnerships, your money, the people that you work with, your job, the people that you are at odds with, a lot of that in the field too, where you have people that you kind of perceive as your enemies that are back. Got to deal with them again. Got to go over some old ground or some power struggle, right? So people that you've had power struggles with coming back on in, another power struggle has shown up in the field to be dealt with. So that's what a T-square feels like, right? A T-square is where we have all three of these planets, the sun, which is not technically a planet, it's a star, but the sun in Taurus, fixed earth. Mars in Leo, fixed fire. Pluto in Aquarius, fixed air. So fixed, that's where we get really stubborn. And think about that for you. And I've been talking about this all week. I released The Path Ahead, which is the forecast. So if you haven't listened to that, listen to that. It's a really good one. It's asking you to look at how you get really stubborn and sort of fixated and on like, you know, whatever, like being who you are, but in a stubborn way, right? No flexibility, like it's my way or the highway. I'm going to do it this way because I've always done it this way. So sometimes with our fixed signs and our fixed planets, we can't really get out of what we think is true. And sometimes there's some bad behavior, right? Like some acting out. So I'm like, well, they've screwed me before, so I'm going to try to screw them back, right? A lot of vindictive stuff that can happen, or just a lot of acting out of ego. And the ego is a great thing to have because it helps us stay organized. But the ego is where we get into like what we want, what we desire, and what we think. And those things are so, well, it's hard to just stay right all the time, right? It's hard to assume that you're right and then actually be right. But there's a lot of people out there that they do that. They're always right. So that's what I've been asking you to contemplate all week, is like, look at the places where you just get super fixated and you think that you're right and they're wrong, or it's their fault, it's not yours, or I want revenge. Like we see that a lot, this sort of public call for revenge, which is so strange. It seems so limited to me, this eye for an eye thing, you know, well, you should get them arrested. You need to sue them. Like, wow, it takes out our whole ability to relate to other people with our heart. And so that's part of us being kings, right? Is learning how to rule with our heart, with an open heart. And learning how to rule with an open heart doesn't mean that you're like, oh, whatever you want. Oh, it all feels so good. No, because you have to have a strong heart, right? I mean, we want strong hearts. We know that about our health. Like we want strong, healthy hearts. That's why we say, I've got to go exercise. I've got to do some cardio. I have to tend to my heart. And that also means tending to your emotions, understanding your deep emotions. So through all of this, through this whole T-square activity, and really, like, let's just be honest, like through life, it's very rarely like just what you see on the surface, right? It's very rarely like, I am breaking up with this friend because they hurt my feelings, and this is the 5th time that they've hurt my feelings, and I just don't think that they're a vibrational match anymore. Like that's too superficial at this point. At this point in your spiritual awakening, you need to be looking underneath that. So, and that's what Pluto does, right? That's the sorcerer that's like, I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to tell you where to look for it, though. I'm going to tell you what is blocking you from the answer. So that's what we're doing. It's like, oh, it's maybe not just because that person hurt my feelings. Like it's because they triggered a really deep sense, an old sense of betrayal in me. Because I feel like I've been betrayed a bunch in my life by a lot of different people, and I probably haven't processed it through. And this person has shown up as my teacher to get me to process it on a deeper level. So we're looking at ruling from a place of being heart-centered. But in Taurus, that means that we have to look at our self-confidence and how much patience we're willing to put into a project. How are we going to grow our abundance and create pleasure? We have to grow pleasure. Fast pleasure usually is empty on the other side, right? Like I'm going to buy this expensive thing. Ooh, I'm so excited. The next day you're like, who cares? Deeper pleasure where it's like, oh my God, I just love spending time with my animal, right? I love being able to pet my animal. But what does that mean? It's like, I have got to tend to this animal day in and day out. Every single day I have to show up for this animal. This isn't like fast pleasure. So our inner king is like, we're not cultivating fast, empty pleasure here. We are looking at deepening in to understanding what true, long-lasting pleasure, the kind that takes patience. How do we get that? And then Pluto, our sorcerer, says, got to look under the surface. Got to look at what blocks you from pleasure. Why do you always reach for the easy thing? What is it that's making you want to eat the whole bar of chocolate, right? That's fast, easy, empty pleasure. Why though? It's probably less to do with you just wanting the taste of chocolate in your mouth and more to do with, I don't want to feel something, or I'm bored and I don't want to feel this boredom. Like I am trying to block something. I'm trying to numb something with this needing to put sugar in my mouth. And that is similar for all addictions, right? And Pluto always says, why don't you look at your addictions for more information about what's really going on in your psyche and in your emotions? And a lot of us are like, I don't want to do that. But it's time. It is the time on the planet. If you're doing spiritual growth, and I know you are because you're here, it's the time to be tuning into that. And then we bring in Mars. Mars is our warrior planet. Mars is in the sign of Leo, and Leo is also very strong and, very showy, right? Like I want to move into action. That's what Mars propels us to do. It tells us when to move. Ideally, it's telling us when to move because we feel passionate about something. A lot of times it tells us to move because we feel angry about something. But again, looking under the surface of anger, it's usually a defensive mechanism. And when we feel the need to defend, it's because we feel like we're in danger. So when we want to move forward in action because we're pissed off, What's going on underneath the surface here? My boundaries have been pushed upon. I don't feel safe. I feel betrayed. So we want to look at that. And then we also want to look at it through the lens of Leo, because this is our warrior wearing the costume of Leo. By the way, our warrior loves to wear the costume of Leo. You know, it's a fire sign and it is an identity archetype. So there's something, you know, where it can be really exhilarating to move forward with passion, but also to move forward with creativity. So right now, you know, all through the last several months, Mars was in Cancer. Mars hates being in Cancer, and it's actually really weakened there because Cancer is emotions and it's privacy and it's like sentimentality and it's memories and it's family. And, you know, a warrior just, what does a warrior need with sentimentality? What is a warrior with hurt feelings? A dangerous person, right? But we're kind of moving out of that now. Mars has finally moved into Leo, thank God. And now we're not so emotionally reactive. Now it's not like, oh, you hurt my feelings, or I'm going to be passive aggressive, or like, I want revenge, like, screw you. It's less about that. And it's more about, how can I take creative action? How can I move forward in a way that actually feels kind of exciting? And Leo loves attention. Leo loves to be on stage. So it's like, I can be strong and I can be showy. Oh, I can get what I want without having to like be sucking my thumb in the corner and getting a bunch of pity. How revolutionary, right? Like, so we actually can vibe with this Mars and Leo a lot better. But the king, the sorcerer, and the warrior, they're in a T-square. So that means, like, astrologically, they're going like this, right? They're all at odds. There's nobody that's really getting along here. And that's because they're all fixed. They each want their way, right? They each want things to go their way. Taurus is like, I am stubborn and I want comfort and I want security and I want enough wealth to know that I'm safe. And Leo is like, well, I want to be seen and I want to be in charge and I want for people to appreciate me. And then Aquarius is like, well, I want to be, you know, revolutionary. I want to change the paradigm. I want to, you know, do my own thing. And they're all fixed. They're all like trees with heavy roots in the ground. So you might find this in your own life, these places where you want to move forward with creativity and excitement. And for some reason, my shadow, my Pluto, my sorcerer is like wanting me to go deeper. Great. So instead of being fun-loving Leo, where it's like, oh, I'm up on stage, I'm laughing, I'm dancing, everybody loves me. It's like, oh, great. Now my shadow has shown up, right? So imagine, like, you guys, we've all been in this situation where you're, let's say that you're like at a party and you're having so much fun and you end up in a conversation with somebody and they say something to you like, oh, so the last time I saw you, your hair, you had like blonde in your hair and now it's dark. It looks so much better. And you're like, oh my God, what the hell? Or like, wow, the last time I saw you, you seemed like you had gained so much weight and now you've lost it and you look great. And that's like the shadow rising up. It's like, we're all good. We're all good. Wait, what? Oh, you thought that I didn't look good the last time I saw you, right? That's a silly example, but that's the shadow coming up of saying, oh shit, okay, all right, well, I guess I gotta look at that. And then we have Taurus over here, and Taurus saying, I am rooted. I don't really want to do that much work. I just want to kind of chill, but also, like, you gotta do the work. Got to do the work. You have to do the work right now around your money, around your value, around your relationships, because it's getting deep. It's like, think back to yourself in like the 90s. If you were here in the 90s, at least for me, my experience was that it was just easy. Like, we were just out having a good time. Like we weren't giving that much thought to any of this. It wasn't like, oh, here's my shadow, or oh, here's my trauma, or wow, I don't feel seen. Like that was, if we were thinking about that, which I probably was a little bit, now it's like there all the time. Now it's like the passenger in the front seat riding shotgun. And really that's how it should be, right? Because we look around the world and we're like, oh my God, it's so messed up. There's so much stuff going on. And do you think those people are conscious? You think all those people that are full of outrage and, power hungry and greedy and vindictive and blaming, and I'm not just talking about politicians and people that are in positions of power. I'm talking about people, because I see this every day where people just act badly. They think they have an excuse to act badly because whatever, they're entitled or they feel like a victim or whatever. But do you think those people are particularly conscious? No. They might not even really understand what consciousness is. But if you're listening to this, you probably are conscious, trying to be. We're all trying to be. And that's what we're looking at right now, is how can we bring consciousness into more moments in our life, more moments than we used to. Because when we're conscious, it's like, how can you be a terrible king? How can you be a terrible leader when you're conscious? It's like, oh God, if I do that thing, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for the kingdom. So I'm not going to do it. If I ignore that garden and I don't do anything, it's going to get overrun by grasses and, I'm not going to be able to grow anything. Or if I ignore my shadow, it's just going to come out in, it's going to kind of seep out. It's sort of like, when you have a dairy allergy and you eat dairy and then you start to break out on your face. Yeah, that same thing happens when we don't address our deeper stuff. And then, if we're just being angry and moving through the world in reactivity, we're going to be causing all this like chaos around us. People aren't going to like us. Not that that's the goal, but we don't get the respect of people when we are out barking at them, honking at them, yelling at them, right? People are like, whatever. But we do get the respect when we show up with integrity and with creativity. All right, so those are things to think about over this next week as we do this T-square energy, and looking at how it shows up for you, and like, how can I be a better king, a better warrior? And how can I find my true power with my sorcerer, right? But in order to find my true power, I have to look at where I am disempowered. So those are your things to think about. All right, you guys, I'll be back next week. I think I'm going to do lives on Tuesday. So I will be back, and this was fun. All right, bye.